Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin gave African leaders a list of reasons why he believed many of their proposals were misguided, pouring cold water on a plan already largely dismissed by Kyiv. Putin said Ukraine and its Western allies had started the conflict long before Russia sent any of its armed forces across the border in February of 2022. He also added that Russia had never turned down peace talks, which he accused Kyiv of blocking. Well, let's bring in Professor Mammo Muchie from the South African Chair for Innovation Studies at TUT. Prof, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the Weekend Report. I do want to start there with some of the proposals that were already being dismissed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in the first leg of the trip. You know, Ukraine essentially saying that they require Moscow to withdraw its troops. Russia vehemently saying that that is a non-negotiable point. I mean, what has this Africa peace mission actually achieved when we look at the two responses from these heads of state?
Thank you very much again for focusing on this critically important problem. This war has been going on now for over 2 years now. First, let me just simply state that I really like to appreciate our African leaders for taking this initiative, to be honest with you. We in the continent, as you know, we are a conflict-ridden continent. We have civil wars, many strange things are happening still now. Look what's happening in Sudan, everywhere now. Despite all these problems, for our leaders also going and attending, paying attention to this conflict between Russia and Ukraine is, I think, very good. And I hope both Russia and Ukraine, I wish if they could really understand them and try to create peace and accept that the African proposal for them to solve this problem, to solve this very major problem they are in, and if they use it, I think it would be wonderful. The reason why I say that is because, remember, there was a G7 meeting. In the G7 meeting, you notice what they did. They invited the Ukrainian leader, and they also proposed to give billions to buy weapons for Ukraine to continue this war. This is not good. Yeah. What the G7 should have done was really do what the peace mission that here from the different countries in Africa, from South Africa, from Egypt, from Congo, from Senegal, from Uganda, all this kind of Comoros, what they have done together is, I think, very good. And right. The African Union should also be involved.
Professor,
I think they should.
I need to just interject here for a minute and say that I don't think it's in dispute that what the African leaders managed to achieve, the effort itself, is a welcomed development. They've opened up channels for dialogue, and we are one step closer, at least, to finding some sort of resolution to the conflict. But it is important to unpack what was actually achieved on this 2-day trip to Russia and Ukraine. And having spent time looking at what either of these heads of state had to say, both the Ukrainian leader and the Russian leader, it does feel as though some cold water was poured on these efforts to say that, where is the strategy? A lot of it looked as though it lacked coherent strategy. Let's talk about that. What was actually achieved by this 2-day mission?
Yes, I think what you said is very important. The good thing is that at least both the Ukrainian president and the Russian president, they discussed with them. At least that's good. But they do not agree with them on both sides. The reason why they don't agree is because, you see, the war, when it started, it started, remember what was done? They said that Ukraine needed to create nuclear facilities and then that was what threatened Russia to say that, and this was not done by Ukraine, but also they had support from NATO and others. So they think this is not just a war of Ukraine against Russia. They are thinking that the West is also involved in this conflict. So what you see is a very complicated situation. I think the negotiation should include also the West. I wish there could have been the United Nations, the West, all of them could be together with the initiation of this African, initiative. They should have really been together and then come out with a solution that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think this is not happening now. And you are right, they may not be able to listen to what Africa is proposing, because you still have the West and Ukraine versus against Russia.
Yeah.
And Russia also trying to say, I don't want to be, we are divided already. We used to be one country, and I don't want them to join to the West. Well, and so you have this conflict. It's a very serious.
Well, some have questioned the timing of the peace mission, Professor. The fact that it was coming at a time where Kyiv had just launched a counteroffensive. And so even looking at the mood of both of these warring nations, Kyiv was in the middle of, launching this counteroffensive. You could hear it even in the tone of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's response to the remarks of a lot of these African heads of state to say that we believe that the only way that this particular war is going to come to an end is if Russia withdraws its troops, is if Russia, swaps political prisoners, removes its own sort of offensive operations out, trying to defend the territorial integrity. So it does appear that even the timing of the entire mission was a little off. I mean, what do you make of that?
I think it's a very complicated problem. You see, Russia feels threatened. It feels a security threat to its existence with this Ukraine war. The reason why this Ukraine war that was created. What they are saying now is, no, this is, you should remember this. Now, even Russians now, when they are going in Europe and other places, they now do not even speak Russian, their own language, because they feel under threat now. It's incredible. The situation is very complicated. So what you see is this withdrawal is not something that Russia will do unless there is peace. If they create peace, there should be a solution. But if there is no peaceful arrangement, they cannot withdraw the troops. If they are not withdrawing, and what you're seeing here is Ukraine also getting more weapons and more support from NATO and all the Western countries, America and everywhere. So what you are having is really a conflict that may develop to a situation where even a kind of third world war might come. That direction is open because Russia is not going to withdraw. The withdrawal can only happen if they could listen to the peace mission that even Africans contributed to. They have so many things to do, but still they prioritize them and they came.
Right.
When they come, they should not treat them. They should respect them and listen to them. And if they do that, I think that would be the best solution.
Right. Well, Professor, earlier you mentioned the importance of perhaps having the West come to the table. The West has largely been funding Ukrainian efforts at countering some of Russia's own offensive operations. They have pledged military jets. They have pledged funds to the Ukrainian war effort. You've mentioned that they need to form part of these talks. Can we view this Africa peace mission, if we are to view it in a positive light, as the building blocks, as a foundation that can be built from? They've opened the channels for talk. Resolution to the conflict doesn't seem to be realistic at this point. I mean, even with the proposals that they've brought forward, it doesn't look as though rather Russian leaders think that those proposals can actually be realized. But talks have been opened. And so is it perhaps better for us to view it in that way, as a form of building blocks, as an option that we can start building from, rather?
Yes. Very good question you asked. I think, I hope and I think the West could appreciate the effort made by Africans to create peace between Ukraine and Russia. And they should learn from this and not go through the path they were going to support militarily Ukraine to attack Russia and use NATO and also membership of some of the countries that used to be with the former Soviet Union, the Russian Federation, and a number of them now are being invited to join NATO and not Russia. By not creating this is critically important. The West should really believe now, learn to believe, to create peace, stability, security in the world. We have already COVID-19, we have already climate change, we have so many problems. We don't need war and conflict in the world. If we do that, the world is in a mess. So the West should not be doing this for self-interest. They should not have this military-industrial complex where military industries want people to be killed, to make money, to make profit. This is wrong. So they shouldn't be selling more weapons now.
Right.
The West should be in a situation where peace and security for the whole world, all humanity, one world community, that vision must be driven. The all-human lifesaver complex in the world is what we need.
Right.
And I think Russia-Ukraine war must be stopped very quickly, and the African leadership initiative that they took must be valued and not ignored. And that must be valued even by the Ukrainians and Russians, as well as also the West and the United Nations and all. And I think Africa, by doing this, it brings back its Ubuntu, its great values, its great philosophies, its great humanity, and I'm very proud of them. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll leave it there, Professor. Thank you for coming onto our program and sharing your insights with us. That was Professor Mammo Muchie from the South African Chair for Innovation Studies at TUT.